Welcome back to Soulful Prosperity. Today, we are honored to welcome Julie Vertzayias. Let me start it again. Vertzayias. I'm just going to go with that. Hopefully it's okay. Welcome back to Soulful Prosperity. Today, we're honored to welcome Julie, and I'm going to butcher her last name, Vertzayias, not quite, to the Soulful Prosperity Podcast. Julie is a holistic practitioner and spiritual coach who decides, starting all over, that name has me all thrown off. I'm going to bring you on a second. Say it again for me. Say it again for me.
Okay, Vertzayias.
Vertzayias. But I hear a J when you say it that way.
Yeah, it's more the English way, I guess, to say.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll just go there because I am not Greek. I am Irish.
It's all good.
Italian names I can do no problem. Vertzayias will work, right?
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Okay. Welcome back to Soulful Prosperity. We are honored to welcome Julie Vertzayias to the Soulful Prosperity Podcast. Julie is a holistic practitioner and spiritual coach who dedicates her life to guiding others on their healing journeys through powerful modalities like inner child healing, Reiki, shadow work, and human design. Julie helps people expand their minds and transform their lives. Her story is as inspiring as her work, overcoming hearing loss, breaking free from addiction, and navigating her own rock bottom of homelessness and financial hardship. Julie's path from a corporate life to following her soul's calling is a testament to the power of healing and personal growth. She's here to remind us that while healing can be scary and uncomfortable, it is profoundly worth it. So let's dive in and learn from Julie's wisdom and experiences. This is another conversation you just do not want to miss. Welcome. Was that okay? Did I do you justice?
Yeah, I was just like, wow, me? That's
right? I know. I loved your bio when I was on your podcast. It was so cool what that you did for me. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. We could just talk forever, and we have a lot in common as far as some of the struggles that we went through. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your story, and take it over. Start wherever you feel comfortable, whatever you feel is appropriate, and whatever you feel is going to benefit the listeners.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just so many layers, but what I do want to start is, so I've always been someone, like, even back in my 20s, like, I will set a goal and I would get it done. And, like, to, take the steps of the goal, whatever needs to happen. But what ended up happening a lot, it was kind of always the idea of chasing goals and always having something outside of myself fulfill me. So it was like, oh, when this happens, like when I go on this trip, then things will be good. When I get this job, then things would be good. And what ended up causing is that there was like more of emptiness. And I found myself in the coaching world. And that it was kind of like what at that time needed to be presented to me. It was what I was ready for, because like now, like looking back in hindsight, the amount of inner work and the depth that I take myself in the healing, that version of Julie wouldn't have been ready for that. I was too much in the victim mindset at that time, and I wouldn't have been, my ego would have been triggered and not open to those depths. And so getting into the coaching world, creating that vision board, the goal setting, very much of that masculine energy. And I was like, oh, I love this. But then what ended up happening is I was trying to build my coaching business, and it wasn't going anywhere. it wasn't working. And I was just, what is it? Like, I'm, working with all these other coaches. They're telling me how to sell. They're telling me how to do the thing. They're telling me all these steps. And I'm doing the steps. I'm doing the thing. And I still got no clients. I still am working full time elsewhere. I am still putting all my energy. And I just couldn't understand what was really happening. And I think it was also, I was trying to create a business at that time in the mindset of what would make money. And I was looking at it from this like logical stance versus what does my soul want to do? What does what thrives and it lights me up? And I would go to networking events. I would put myself out there. And again, it just wasn't hitting. And what ended up happening is I was following these coaches and they came out with this manifestation course. It was like $20. And I was like, what is manifestation? I'm like, you mean I can put something out there and make it happen without doing anything?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, wait, what? My brain being so logical and such a planner and creating being that person of goal setting, I'm gonna do all these steps to get it.
Mm-hmm.
It was all of a sudden, wait, what? You want me to do the opposite of that? Like not take action, not do anything, and just put something out there that I want and then trust?
Right.
What do you mean? And my brain just couldn't. So I was like, okay, well, $20. I'm like, what do I got to lose for $20? And I did it. And I was just like, okay, let's see what happens. I'm like, I was intrigued. I was like, this is like magic. Like, let's find out. And then, so there was a few things I had put on there. So at that time it was, to, meet someone, meet my person. It was to have a 6-figure year in my business. I kind of went big. And a few months after that, I felt called to, go get a tarot card reading. And so I found one in the city, and I walked in. It was a walk-in, and I was like, hey, do you have time? Take me. I'm like, I've never done tarot reading. I was not spiritual at that time. I was just like, well, let's find out. And I did the reading, and she was like, your chakras are blocked, especially your heart chakra. And that's why you're not meeting your person, is because you're not letting anybody in. And it just all landed. I just started bawling within the first 5 minutes of that tarot reading session. And it was just so powerful because throughout my life, I've been in situations, and that this was for me to learn situations, whether it was friendships, partnerships, or even work related, where it was always a lot of endings. It was harsh endings, harsh, it wouldn't be oh, now we part ways. It was something would happen that would cause an ending. And at that time, again, being in a different mindset than I am now, but at that time, it felt like it was everybody wronging me. People were taking advantage of me. People were, not honoring or respecting me and my friendship or, my work ethic. And what I ended up happening is getting hurt so many times, I just created a thick skin.
Yeah.
But I also created this really big wall that I was just hesitant. I was hesitant letting friends in. I was hesitant letting a partner in or a potential partner in, because it was well, what if they hurt me? And so when she said, your heart chakra is blocked, I didn't even know what chakras were, to be honest. What do you mean? I don't understand, but I'm crying. For some reason, I'm crying. So there's something here. And later on that day, there was a beach yoga, and it was a free event sponsored by Lululemon, and they had this really amazing yoga teacher that came. I believe it was Janet Stone. I think she's originally from San Francisco, and she did the whole yoga movement, and then at the end she kind of all got us to stage, like closer to stage, to chant. And so now we are chanting yam, and I didn't know what it was, and we're saying yam over and over, and I'm just crying. There's
Mm.
a lump in my throat. I'm wondering like what is going on. I was just really like, this is crazy. Like one of, like, I guess the craziest days I've had. I drive home after that class. To drive home was 2 hours because this was in the city and I didn't live in the city. And 2 hours, I'm bawling the whole way home. And then I get home and I just start Googling chakras. I'm like, okay, she said my chakras are blocked. What are chakras? So now I'm like, what are chakras? And then I read up what they were, like the very basic definition. And I was like, okay, interesting. And then they're like, the heart chakra, the sound for the heart chakra is yam. And I was like, and that was the start of my spiritual journey. And so then I ended up doing another tarot card reading a month later with a reader that was here in Whistler because I wanted somebody a little bit closer proximity. I didn't want to be driving 2 hours for sessions at that time. This was like pre-COVID. So like
Yeah.
the online wasn't
Right. It would have felt.
what it is now. And so I ended up doing a session in Whistler with this. Well, she ended up being my mentor, and she still is. Like I still call her up every now and then. I'm like, I need your guidance.
Yeah.
But she ended up being the mentor, my spiritual mentor. Like she's the one who had me like open up my heart, but like doing that deep inner work, but then also like tapping into my intuition. And she was the one to go get tarot cards, and not for me to be a tarot card reader, even though that's what I do now. But at that time, it was simply like a way for me to tap into my intuition, a way for me to open up my third eye. And I ended up doing a lot of work with her, a lot of like really deep healing. And then that led to inner child healing and shadow work. And
Good.
so meanwhile, while I was doing all this healing, I actually decided to take a pause with my business. I decided there is something more for me in terms of this healing aspect. And what I was doing with my business just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. Again, I think the more I was like diving into just my healing, I was realizing, oh, I'm trying to create a business of like what logically makes sense, of like, or what is going to make me money. And it just didn't feel in alignment. So I started pausing. And even she's like, right now, she even said, don't try everything we're working on. Like, don't try to go sell it, like embody it, and then feel what pulls you. And she's told me as well, like, not everything you do needs to be sold. And I think this is where we get into that logical mind, right? We're like, oh, we learned this, like new technique, and now I need to go get certified and sell it. But that's
Right.
not always the case. And so she really grounded me in that aspect of really tapping into what my soul wants to teach, but then also what my soul wants to just take in and keep it to myself. Like
Right.
as I've done breath work, I've done EFT tapping, but I didn't go and I love those modalities, but I didn't go and get certified because it's not what I want to bring in.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was very interesting. Now, while I will bring in the addiction piece because I think it is like, it's a very interesting aha moment I had. And so during this time, I'm doing this inner work and I'm still like, smoking cigarettes. And that was my addiction that I battled for a long time. Like I would believe I was a smoker close to 20 years.
Wow.
Started at a really young age in high school. And it was one of those things that it was like, oh, I'm a social smoker. And then I got a job at a grocery store and they actually had a smoking room at that time. And I started making money. I had the access to the smoking room. And it just started from there.
Wow.
And so when there was a time where before all of this that I did leave Montreal. I'm originally from Montreal and I moved out here to British Columbia. And for that road trip, I challenged myself and I said, okay, I'm going to quit. Like I'm changing environments. Like it's going to make it easy. Like I'll quit. It wasn't like my nose. I have a very strong sense of smell because having a hearing loss, they usually say when you lose one sense, another ones get stronger. So my sense of smell is really strong. And so I would be like, I remember being somewhere in a small town in, in New Brunswick, and I would smell the cigarette and I'm like, who's smoking? And I would just like go find them and bum a cigarette off them. And I was like, I was trying so hard to quit and it wasn't working. And at the end, I just gave. I was like, you know what? It's not working. So let me just buy a pack. I'm like, I'm sick and tired of trying to find people to bum from. Like, that's just ridiculous. And so I realized, and so then that was where I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just like start cutting down. I'm like, maybe going cold turkey is not for me. And so during this really deep healing part, I was just not focusing so much on quitting, but I did recognize one thing, that when I would have those deeper healing sessions, like my intake would go up. And it was interesting because it was this weird sense of pause, this sense of stillness, even though it was like the addiction. I would go out and just have that smoke, and I'd have those 7 to 10 minutes of just stillness because I'm focusing on something else. I'm focusing on the smoking. I'm not focusing on my thoughts. I'm not focusing on my body. And so for me, that was just like at that time doing that really in-depth work that I had never experienced before in my life. It was like that was giving me the break of before going back in. Mm-hmm. And so I continued to just do my normal routine. But then it came a point where I realized that I was yo-yoing, like as much as I wanted to quit, that I was going down to 2-3 a day. On the rougher days, I would still go back up to 6 to 8. And I'm like, well, if I continue this way, I'm never going to quit. Mm. And so I decided it was like the new year. There was, I believe it was, oh my God, it must have been 2021, January 2021. I decided to buy the book that Alan Carr wrote. And it's this book on stop smoking, but it's like an interesting book because it was more of the mindset behind it. And at this point, having done so much inner work and being in, the self-development, it just clicked. And it just made sense.
Right.
And so I'm reading this book, and even the beginning of the book, he's like, don't change your routine. And so meanwhile, I swear somebody should have taken a picture of me because I was like outside and I was reading this book that says like, to stop smoking, and I'm having a cigarette while I'm
yeah.
If anybody can someone please take a picture of this because this is hilarious. But he said in the book, he's like, don't stop. And then once you just get to the end, there's a process. And I closed that book. I finished that book. And it was actually when I finished that book, I was on my last pack, my last cigarette. And it just happened at the same time. Wow. And that was it. And it was, yeah, in the beginning there was like the cravings, and it was, challenging, but I kept going back to the mindset thing, and I kept going back to, no, wait, this is the addiction speaking, and it'll go away. It's not going to last forever. Like, drink some water, like it'll be good. Just breathe. You're fine. And cuz my thing is that I didn't want to quit smoking and go to another device.
Right.
Like, I didn't want to, get a vape pen. I didn't want to get the gum or the patches. Like, I didn't want to use, like, I wanted to do it on, like, so then it's clean. It's a
Right.
clean ending.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that having done the inner work was what made it easier,
Mm-hmm.
because I was no longer reaching for something outside of me. I learned to fulfill me. I
Yeah.
learned to like fill my own cup, and I didn't need the cigarette. And for the longest time, like, I didn't do healing, right? I didn't do any of that in-depth work until that moment from like 2019, and then I quit in 2021. So that was like, it was like that year and a half of
Yeah.
really doing this really deep work, and finding that own fulfillment for me. And I didn't do it before. So that's why it was like I was always reaching for something outside of me. I was always reaching for that cigarette because I wasn't satisfied with myself. I wasn't happy with myself.
Yeah.
And that that's where I realized, I was like, everybody's on a different path when it comes to addiction. And some people need to end it, and then they do the healing. But for me, it was do the healing first, and then the ending was just so much easier. It
Yeah.
definitely, like I said, it was challenging those, first like 6-8 weeks, because it was, that the actual addiction piece of the
Yeah.
nicotine, like the cravings of the body. But I was able to coach myself through it because I already had the tools
Mm-hmm.
in my belt for the other healing things I've done.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Smoking is a very I was a heroin addict, and obviously that was not fun. One time I ended up in jail for 5 days, and but people, even heroin addicts, would compare. The only thing that's worse to quit is smoking. So that's
Really?
yeah, because of the physical addiction, even worse than alcohol, because well, alcohol is pretty intense too for people who drink, daily mass quantities, because they get a very intense physical addiction as well. Um, but yeah, and one of the things you said, a couple of things. Number one, what is your human design?
I made 2-4 projector.
2-4 projector. Interesting, because I related so much to the kind of like big endings and where they hurt you. I guess it's a little bit different. Number one, my 5-1, very much so fall from grace, which I guess is the 5 line. I forget, um, but also the big endings. The only difference, I never have had a victim mentality. I don't know why. Um, but I gave it to people, like I gave them this ability to take advantage of me. It was like, please do. And it's like, I just was this over pleaser, overachieving people pleaser. And I know that if I could just please them, they would never leave me, never hurt me, and just love and respect me, and wouldn't know, who I really was, this person back then. And then the other thing that was a little different was, for me, the more success I got, the more I drank. So I learned how to manifest, but I didn't learn how to become the version of myself who could handle the success and could find the joy, the peace, and the prosperity. So it's funny how you can have very similar journeys, but get there through different patterns. And but the manifestation piece was really powerful, because I remember learning how to do it, and but no one taught me that part. It was actually Joe Dispenza meditation that taught me how to do this. You like imagine everything you want, and then you picture a letter and all the emotions that surround it. And I was able to put everything that was on my 7-year list, like make $500,000 a year, check. Be a size 6, check. Can find the husband, check. Beach house, bought and paid for, check. And then it all blew up because I did not become the version. I didn't. Now, and here's the funny thing too. I had been practicing spirituality, but like a lot of people, I left it on the mat. Once I was done with my mat, I went into that world in a whole different persona. It's like I had 2 totally different personas until I was able to do the shadow work, do the inner child healing, bring it all together into wholeness. I was never going to be able to sustain any of it. So, really, really powerful stuff. Let me see if there was anything else. The chasing. Yeah, the chasing. I'm glad that you went that route because I know a lot of coaches who are in that space and in that zone, and they're just chasing and adding new services and new programs, not embodying it, and it's not judgment. I just there's more. There's so much more to it where you don't have to feel like you're chasing, and then you can be comfortable with a question mark around money and finances because you know that becoming the better version of yourself is where the true soulful prosperity will lie. So where in all of this was this homelessness?
It was at the start of 2022. So this is the really interesting piece was that, when you hear, in your story and other people's stories where the homelessness and going broke would be at a start of the journey.
No, all my shit fell apart. I feel you.
Yeah. Like some people go through that, like that's their rock bottom, but it's like, oh, but this is when I started doing inner healing.
Yes, exactly. I totally understand.
But for me, it wasn't that. I did the inner healing and then I ended up homeless.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. That I understand. Like that was me too.
Yeah.
And that's happening to me right now, in a different sense, not financially, but the more I'm embodying and the more whole I become, the memories are now coming back. The memories of the trauma and all of that stuff. And it's like, I transcended the pain and all this stuff long time ago to be able to take care of my daughter and to be able to do this. And now you would think that I would just be able to transcend pain and whatnot. But no, I'm crying like once a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I know what to do with it, and I know how to, process it and not surprise. And I guess I suppressed it, not transcend it, but sometimes one of my teachers, Guru Singh, who's an amazing Kundalini yoga teacher, he's actually Tony Robbins' Kundalini yoga teacher. And I did get certified with him, even though I don't want to be a Kundalini yoga teacher. It's one of my tools. But he talks about that's the true awakening. And any birth goes through turmoil, goes through, disruption and pain and all of that, and then comes out. And so I always try to remember that and feel good about it when it's like, why is there this pain now? Like, what is this? So yeah, doing the work doesn't mean that everything all of a sudden becomes, but it becomes purposeful.
It does.
Have fulfillment and love and being impeccable. That's the word that I love. Where you are, so that doesn't mean you're perfect. It means that you are addressing everything now. You're addressing things while they're small and don't become giant, and just dealing with things head on. And we're here to tell you that doesn't always feel good.
Yeah. And it was like during that time, it was, how are you going to hold this? How are you, like you now you have everything, right? It's like I had everything I knew, like I had my tool belt.
Yeah.
So now what? now how am I going to hold myself through this? And
Mhm.
it was a very much taking everything I've learned and putting it into practice, because that's what I realized. Because I did have like a friend slash a client once ask me, they're like, how do you know that the work works? And I'm like, it's when you put it into practice. When life throws at you the shit,
That it's
that's
going to power you.
it's like, now how are you going to navigate this? And that's when you take the work you've learned and you implement it.
Yeah.
And that's what that taught me at that time. And it also taught me to manifest as well. That's where I really learned the power of manifestation. I was really playing around with it, because I was like, well, I got nothing to lose. So what if? And so it was a time where I was homeless and broke. And it was in this small town where there was a housing crisis. But normally what ends up happening is that, everybody was telling me prior to the day where I didn't have anywhere to go, people were like, you'll figure it out. Something always comes through. And I'm like, trusting, trusting, trusting. And then next thing you know, it's February 1st. And I'm like, okay, I got no place to sleep right now. And I was grateful enough that the town like had a very strong community, and I did put my ego to the side and I asked for help. I was like, okay, I'm going to need help. And it started off in the beginning with like just 2-3 days here, sleeping out a friend's couch here, there. And I realized that for that first month, that was survival mode, and it was stressing me out. And I was holding a space for myself. Like I would cry and I would like listen to my inner child. Like I would, like just hold that space for her and say, it's okay. You have every right to feel this way. Like just, how you would talk to someone who is going through a hard time,
Mhm.
in the sense of like that they got it. And so I would learn to hold that space for myself in those moments, because it was a month that was very challenging in that aspect of, okay, so my friend said I could stay here 2-3 days, and then it was like, okay, now what? Right. And so I started getting exhausted with that. And so I couldn't at that time imagine manifesting like a full, like permanent home, because it was just all I knew was like every 2-3 days I was in that survival mode. So I needed to play with it a little bit of what I can possibly believe. And that was one thing with manifestations that I learned. It's like if you're energetically not behind it, it makes it very difficult to bring it into your reality.
Mhm.
So it started off with 2-3 days. And then I was like, okay, what if I can find something for a week? Something a week where I don't move. And it started with that. And then it became, okay, what if I could find something for a month? And so then that's kind of how I was slowly taking it step by step. Now, at this time, I was also struggling financially. And so, and I found different ways. Like I would find like, basically like, the 1 month would be like if somebody was out of town and they're like, we have this space for a month. And so then I would go
Mhm.
there. I did cat sitting. That was that was another option. I decided to get creative of like how can I, you
Yep.
know, like find housing. And
I'm
but
doing that on purpose right now. I made a decision like, this will be my home base, but I want to have the opportunity to go see my brother for a month or two. So I put myself on this sitting website so you can travel, and so it's not a bad thing. Very good creation.
yeah, you just start getting creative. You start being like, okay, well, this is where I'm at. And so then I was like, so the last place before I got like a permit, like one of the permanent homes, I I was cat sitting, and it was this beautiful, beautiful, like beautiful apartment. It was gorgeous. And in this space, I was like, okay, I got nowhere to go after this. And I'm like, all right, what if I'm like, well, I have also no money. So it was very much, what if I could manifest something for free? What if I could manifest something permanent that's free? And so I sat there, I sat with that and I was like, okay, because I'm like, I've manifested all this so far. Like I manifested the 1 week, I manifested the month, I manifested the month not paying, like I manifest the month paying. I did different ways. And I was like, okay, well, what if I could just permanent free? And this was the craziest day. It was a day, it was like the second to last day before leaving this place. And I did a letting go meditation, and where I released like a version of myself that was attached to the temporariness, because I felt like I got a little comfortable with that. I got a little comfortable with the temporary spots. And I released that version so that I can bring in the new version, which is something a little bit more permanent Julie. And I was like, temporary Julie exists, but we're gonna now it's not the time for it. And so I did 2 meditations. I did the letting go, and then I did one of bringing in. And I ended the meditation. I kid you not, my phone chimed, and there was a friend of mine who was like, "Hey, are you still looking for housing? I might have something for you." And it was a tiny home on an Airbnb property, and I would be the caretaker and also clean the Airbnbs. So I got free rent, but then I also got paid for the Airbnb cleans.
Nice.
And just like that. And I was like, I just manifested free rent. I was like, what? And I was mind blown by that. And so as challenging as that time was, it was not easy. It took a toll on my emotional, my mental, my physical body. I held on to that survival mode for actually a pretty long time without realizing. Subconsciously, I was holding on to it for actually 2-3 years. I think like the past year, I finally I'm letting it go. But it was something that held, like the fear of being broke again, or the fear of like losing home again. It was something that it was deep. It actually held on to me for a long time, and I had to learn to like breathe through it and really work through it. So even though I had all this tool built, and during that time it was hard, but I navigated. I went and I did it, and I got it, but it was still, there was the aftermath that stayed. And it's something that you don't think about. You think like, oh, okay, I did it. I got through it. Now I'm okay. But until there's that moment of like, potentially not being able to pay a certain bill, and then right, like it comes back up. Or like if you have an argument, like there was a time, like I had a place where I had roommates, so there was a time where it was like certain things weren't lining up, and I'm like, am I going to lose that?
Right. Yeah.
And so it's something that stuck around, and I didn't think of it in the moment, or even after, when I like found the permanent housing, that it would stick around for as long as it did, because I wasn't aware until I was presented with these moments of that I wouldn't be able to breathe.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Well, I can tell you that I know personally that all of that will make you, or already makes you, a much better coach. And you're a spiritual coach, and having these spiritual awakenings and going through things as scary as that, and coming out of them a better version of you, is exactly who we want to be coached by, right? In whatever aspect that we're looking for a coach in. So tell us about your work, and if somebody wants to work with you, how they do that and what's next.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Julie's Unknown. And I also have my website, juliesunknown.com. So those are
We'll have
areas.
on the stuff when you guys see this on the podcast.
Perfect. And so that is where you can find me. And if you are interested in working with me one-to-one, like I do focus on that deep inner healing. The idea is that you have these goals, these things you want to accomplish, but maybe there is roadblocks or maybe there isn't that fulfillment piece, as I mentioned earlier. And it's to now begin filling your cup. I do tend to work with people who have done some self-development because of the level of depth that my sessions are. I love going to the root. I love going super, super deep. And like I said in the very beginning of this podcast, the depth that I work on myself right now, it's not something that, 8 years ago, Julie would be able to hold. So it isn't for people who are in the beginning stages of inner healing, self-development, or any inner work. It's for someone, you've done a bit. You've done a bit, you've dipped your toe, and now you're ready to just go a layer deeper. You're ready to tap into another layer so that see what's there for you to unravel and discover about yourself. I love using human design as one of the systems because it just gives you so many amazing signposts to as like a coach. It kind of gives me that signpost where I can like take that little nugget, and then in the session it's like, okay, now let's unravel this, let's go deeper. And so I love that human design brings that piece to it. And so these are the ways to, if you want to do that one-to-one, that is that piece. But if you still love my vibe, but you want to kind of try me out, I offer tarot and Reiki healing. And I like to do that as the pieces for people who are just like, want to get to know my energy. They want to get to kind of like feel what my sessions are like. The Reiki and the tarot readings are both like a great introduction. And so you can find those, book those spots on my website. And that is it for now. So that is basically what I'm currently offering.
And what's next?
What's next? And just like business, life, anything.
Whatever comes to mind.
Whatever comes to mind.
What's next for Julie?
I'm feeling like I'm definitely getting to a new season of life. And right now in this recording, we're basically like, I believe like we just finished Scorpio season and we're getting into the Sagittarius. And I felt Scorpio season really brought up a lot for me to look at. I am a Scorpio, so us Scorpios were not exempt from Scorpio season. Like we still, the death and rebirth really pops in to look at. And so I'm feeling I'm in a new season of life. I feel like there's just like almost like new beginnings, new things happening. I am learning to look at life and things in a different lens versus the way I was looking at before. Prior to this, I was in this group call, and what came up, I was like, whoa. So it was in the essence of like, for the longest time, I was playing not to lose. And now I want to play to win.
Mirror, mirror yesterday.
Yes. And it was mirror yesterday. And then like I had a call this morning with a group of ladies, and it just solidified. It like landed, integrated everything.
Yes. Yes, we cannot play to not lose. Playing small has been canceled, as my very good friend and mentor Craig Siegel loves to say, and I couldn't agree more. Well, I think that
it landed so well because it wasn't so much that. Like I've put things out there in the world. Like I've done the thing and then I'll fail and I'll do it again. But it was still in the context and in the mindset of playing not to lose.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the other mindset of playing to win. And if you don't win, then
It's
that's
so funny because during the pandemic, I fucking hated the expression "no fucks given." I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, how could you just not? And I didn't really understand it, but that's really what it's about. It's about putting your best foot forward, even if it ends up that it's not your best foot. And you're like, oh no, wait, that was wrong. Let me go back. Let me do this. And that's actually something that's very natural to me. Thank God. I have no idea why. But I still always I was a deep people pleaser too at the same time. So it was like weird. You think of people pleasing as this one track thing, and it's not, because I was extremely confident to the masses and to the world. My people pleasing was to the people close to me. And so I forgot where I'm going with this. Oh yeah. The playing to not lose. Yeah, no, that's just operating from fear and scarcity. And like I said, like, when you can get to as an entrepreneur and business owner, when you can get to the place where you are okay with a question around money and you're not losing your breath, right? Um, because otherwise you're afraid to take the risk. You're never going to find out what actually works unless you fail a whole bunch of times. There's nobody that just goes out there and knocks it out of the park. It just doesn't happen.
No.
And if they do, typically, it's not sustainable or something, but it's just, I don't even know anybody that's ever really done that. So
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. So that's what I feel. What's next? It's like this new beginning, new something. There's been a lot of like past month, a lot of closing chapters in certain areas in my life, like whether it's like spiritually, emotionally, letting go, or there's been some physical elements as well. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for this now, like Sagittarius season, and just oh, okay, it feels good.
me too. Well, I am so grateful for you being here. You're a beautiful soul. I look forward to whatever else we can do together. And everybody, if you need help in any way, you know how to reach me, jennifermara.com/schedule. Get on my calendar and get into that soulful prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all those listening.